Okay, last one. So a piece of space junk is set to collide with the moon soon, the first time this has happened. While initially experts believed it was debris from a SpaceX launch, it's now thought that it was part of a discarded piece from a Chinese lunar mission from 2014. Now, there is no agency that tracks space debris this far from Earth, which is a growing problem since the amount of space junk has increased exponentially in the last few years. And if a piece of space junk were ever to collide with a satellite or space station, it would definitely destroy it, since some of them travel like 15 times faster than bullets. The impact on the moon won't be visible from Earth, but it could tell scientists something about the way craters form on the moon, which in turn could give us new insights into space.
I never really thought about space junk that far out. I mean,
Me
surely
neither.
there was one or two things from the, not one or two, but one or 200 things from the
Right.
Apollo missions. But and then when you said that they thought that it might be the SpaceX, I'm just, oh man, that thing got there quick.
Well, there have
For
been a
being a
bunch of
drifting
SpaceX
piece of
launches.
junk, it's
Yeah.
like the Apollo missions were fired there on purpose and had to do all this calculating in order to get the gravity to get there. And
True.
SpaceX junk is just getting there. That's
Yeah.
now. Don't get me wrong; it's just mind blowing. I guess I never really thought about that, but yeah. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do we have any sort of laws on the books where we're trying to set something up to stop space junk, or is this eventually just going to turn into a ring around our planet like the Transformers the movie, or like that big pile of trash that's out in the Pacific?
I I don't know a lot about this. But as I understand it, space law in general is very it's all a lot of it's all on the level of like UN agreements where if people want to break it, basically they can. And there's no like because there's no oversight of like the entire world, you know.
Right.
So it's all a bunch of tacit agreements among spacefaring countries. But I don't think but that mostly concerns other stuff. Um, I don't know if there really even is a plan in for space junk. A few years ago, Russia launched a missile to destroy one of their defunct satellites, which created a huge amount of debris, which apparently threatened the International Space Station, which made like a bunch of other countries really mad. So obviously, Russia is, as we're seeing in the news, maybe a little more likely to push the boundaries of international law than a lot of other countries. But I think it really is like you can do what you want and people will make frowny faces at you.
What is the advantage of shooting a missile at something
I'm not
that's not a
I
big enough missile to atomize it?
right.
You basically you're playing 52 pickup at that point. That's like, well, I guess you're not, because you're not picking it up.
I'm sure there is I'm sure there's a reason they did this. I unfortunately don't know what it was. But
Yeah, well, we definitely need to do something about space junk, because eventually it's going to be difficult to, how long is it going to be until Elon Musk is sending up some rich people, that end up getting lobotomized by a bolt that's traveling through at
right.
Mach
Yeah.
7, you know?
Yeah.
At that
It's
point, they're going to be all, we need to get this cleaned up,
yeah, and I don't know
Our
how you
risk
clean up
assessment is not
space
really
junk.
good in this country for the amount of, I got to say, for the amount of taxes I pay. I feel like our risk assessment should be a little better.
I agree. I think it mostly goes to making tanks so people in Arkansas have jobs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. And because I mean, I'm a believer that if my enemy, it's not a great world where we all have weapons, but in a world where Russias do exist, our weapons do keep them at bay, obviously. So I'm okay with that. But also at the same time, it's like, COVID happens and they're just, oh crap, we only have 12 respirators. Why don't you have
Right.
a whole I paid taxes, it's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
irritating.
no, I mean, I agree. I think I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, there were like pandemic red. We were talking on the show, as I've said a bunch of times, about like there were a bunch of news articles in the years leading up to COVID when we were doing this show, where every 6 months or so I would bring an article that was like, experts say we are not even remotely, even slightly kind of prepared for a pandemic. And the response to stuff like that is, geez, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
We never
Change
did
channel.
anything. No one did anything to get money for that or anything. So like,
well, let me ask you this. Do you like to yard sale? Has there ever been a point in your life that you like to go to yard sales?
No, but I'm curious where you're going with this.
Okay. Personally, I like to go to yard sales.
That's
fun.
reasonable. They're very
My wife
economical.
and I, we go to yard sales, but sometimes we pull by a house and we're just all, that place is a crap heap. And we are not going to that yard sale because it's gross. My question for you is, how many opportunities to meet alien life have we missed out on because they drove by and saw that our yard was a mess?
It's not what I was expecting you to say, but
well, really, I mean, they're going to come by and they're going to be all, no, that's a hard pass. This place is gross. I just saw a bolt fly by at Mach 7 with a little chunk of brain on it.
Yeah, they're trying to get to our planet, but they can't approach because there's so much shrapnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we would love to bring the secret of universal life, health, and happiness to these people, but there's this bolt there, and we're really worried about it.
Yeah. Well, it's already, it's tasted human blood once. Now it's got a knack.
God, the bolt.
Right.
New sci-fi B movie. The bolt. People in space. I think
it's like Gravity. I haven't seen
alive.
Gravity, but they might have already made it.
Yeah. Have you heard about Moonrise?
No.
It's this new movie about, I guess, basically the moon coming to life and attacking the Earth. I saw trailers for it.
Like Majora's Mask?
I think there's like this weird inky substance in the moon. Like it's an inky. It's like that Doctor Who episode where it's like an egg for something horrible. I don't know.
I did see that.
Yeah, well, I never watched the movie, but
no, I meant the Doctor Who. I saw that.
Oh yeah. Well, this is. I'm just worried that like the guy who came on that one time and told us that like the moon is a space station, if he's right and this thing hits the moon, I'm a little worried that the inhabitants will retaliate.
Yeah, well, given the news from a couple of weeks ago, space stations have sewer systems, and the news a couple of weeks ago is that the New York sewer system is breeding new crazy viruses. So even if it's an ancient alien thing, Lord knows what's lurking down there in their sewer systems.
God. Yeah, we're bringing together all the news articles into one mega thing to be worried about: lunar sewage.
This is movie script gold. We're going to have to talk about this off camera. All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. Come on back. All right, welcome